It's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction. Again, yes, Cornelia Lesh. I'm the manager of community and employee wellness. And I've been at VHC for 20 years as of this June, and I've lived in Arlington for about 25 years. I'm married and I have a 13-year-old daughter. So, as she gets older and stages of life collide, you can send some good vibes my way. I also have parents, in this realm. They are 81 and almost 82. I just got back from visiting them, and I wish there was something like this there. They're very active, like you all are, and engaged. So this is just such a great community of older adults, and I'm happy to be here today. Um, Things that I do just before we delve in. I do manage the senior fitness classes that the hospital offers, so happy to hear you have Tai Chi. If you're interested in anything else, I'll put my information in the chat before we depart. And of course our senior health department, which is how I got involved with y'all today. You're probably quite familiar with the Walk Fit and the Lifeline and all the wonderful things that our senior health department does. So I will get started, and I, if it's okay with you, I am going to turn my camera off so that I'm not distracted by myself. I'll be back at the end to discuss any of your questions, and I know that Gary and I will both have the chat open. So because this is a conversation, I want it to be, I want you to feel welcome to ask questions, to share what works for you, because we're all learning from one another. So please, let me know of any questions or feedback in the chat. And also let me know if you can't hear me or if the slides aren't matching what we're talking about. There could be, a technology issue that I can work on immediately. So just let me know and I'll work on that. All right. Let me share my slides. And can you see the slides properly, Gary? Let me know if you see them.
No, we're still seeing the next slide along with the current slide.
Oh, okay. Let me switch that. Okay. Better?
Nope, still seeing the same thing.
Okay. Let me go back. And I will stop sharing and just do that again. Thank you for your patience.
That's better.
Better. Okay, super. All right. Let me open the chat as well so I can see what you're interested in discussing. Okay. All right. So we know that sleep is crucial. It is, linked with many chronic diseases, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, depression. So it's something crucial and something within our control that we can make small changes to make better. So we will discuss, I'm going to get to that slide. So what normal sleep is, your health, your safety, just general well-being. We'll talk about what it means to have a sleep problem and ask, some questions that you can assess. Lots of focus on self-care today and things that you can change. And then we'll touch on some professional aids and treatment options. So first thing is, why do we need sleep? Well, certainly, it is truly the time where our bodies renew and restore. Every function in our brain and our body is aided by better sleep. When we sleep well, I certainly know that I'm a nicer partner, I'm a better parent, I'm a nicer colleague, able to make better decisions and learn more readily. So sleep helps with problem solving. It helps our memory and ability to concentrate. It helps us regulate emotions, coping skills, inspires us to be more creative. And most importantly, it helps our immunity. So we really want to keep our immunity in our tip-top shape. So when you sleep well, it's helping your metabolism, your hormones, and just regulating all of those vitals in our system. Fun fact, we dedicate an average of 25 years of our lives to sleeping, so we want to make it count. I won't read everything on this slide because we will send a PDF of this presentation to Cheryl, and Gary will send it over. So you'll have all of this information. But suffice to say, a lot of work injuries or, car crashes can be attributed to sleep deprivation or being drowsy. And according to the CDC, a third of US adults do not get enough sleep. So there's a lot of people struggling with sleep problems, including insomnia or other disorders, and we want to make some changes. Any reasonable change just to get us started, because with everything that we want to change in our lives, one positive thing that we do will snowball to other things. So as you're here today learning, perhaps you make one change and that will affect other good changes in your life. Some other facts, daytime fatigue is a common indication of a sleep problem. So if you're feeling really, fatigued during the day, then we can make some, reasonable changes. And what's interesting is this sleep loss, and it does add up to what they call sleep debt. So I admit that I'm somebody who occasionally stays up too late. I'm trying to take back time that I don't have during the day and get something done. But what I'm learning is that it's just not worth it. It's better to go to bed, um, feel rested in the morning, and then feel better able to tackle whatever those things are that are on my mind. We all are different, and as we age, our need for sleep changes. But the next slides talk about the hours we need, about 7 to 9 hours. Some more facts, if you will, the economic impact of sleep disorders. Home and public, these are astronomical numbers, billions of dollars spent because of sleep issues that lead to, car accidents, work-related accidents, workplace productivity. Imagine, how much more present we are when we get a good night's sleep. So you can see as we age, things shift, but for all of us, we're in those last two categories. I'm 51. I'm certainly, I need 7 to 9 hours. Sometimes I get a little bit less and I can function, but I know that when I sleep, about 8 hours a night, I'm feeling my best. For older adults, the amount of sleep that you need doesn't change that much. Sometimes the conditions change, might not be as efficient at getting those 7 to 9 hours. And sometimes we have to spend a little longer in bed just to get those 7 hours of sleep that we need to function optimally. If you're, a grandparent and you're taking care of kids this summer or at any point throughout your days, good to know what the ranges are for those younger kids as well. More sleep. And for teenagers, even though school starts really early, they do need to be going to bed at a decent hour. So as I have a 13-year-old, I'm really trying to encourage her to continue going to bed at a decent hour and not toil. Even though I want her to be reading and enjoying a good book, I really need her to turn that light out and get some good sleep. So there are 4 main stages of sleep that are divided into 2 main types: the non-REM, rapid eye movement, and then the REM, not the band, but rapid eye movement when you're in that stage where you're dreaming. So we'll talk more about each stage. So for non-REM, that's 75 to 80% of your total sleep time, and it progresses from the light sleep when you're kind of drifting off into the deeper state, and that's when your metabolism slows down. And within that non-REM, there are the stages where you're easily awoken when you first go to sleep, and then you get to that deeper state where it's less likely to be able to wake you up. For the REM, the rapid eye movement sleep, about 20 to 25% of your total sleep time. And that's the vivid, full color dreaming, sometimes nightmares. You can imagine if you have a dog, you sometimes see your dogs with the eyes moving, and you can see their little paws like running in their sleep. So that's where they are in this phase of sleep, and your metabolism increases, and REM sleep increases with each progressive sleep cycle. So as we get older, you can see this graph here, there's a little less time spent in that deeper stage of sleep, more frequent nighttime waking. And if you all have any, information you want to share with me, what your experience is at night, if you're comfortable sharing, you're welcome to. I certainly know that spending time with my parents over the last few days, my dad used to get up at, 6 a.m. every day and go to work. And now he goes to bed at a decent hour and sleeps probably till 10 a.m. So it's like he's earned it. But I know that he also wakes up a lot more across the night, and says, please explain REM sleep increases within each sleep cycle. I'll go back. During REM sleep, your metabolism speeds up, and so does brainwave activity. So there's, within each sleep cycle, you're able to, have that burst of brainwave activity. And I can send you more. I sent some links to, I believe it was Mary. So I will send more information that will explain this a bit more deeply. But I want to respect your time and keep you going, because we've got a lot of information to cover. So, just to spend a moment here, a sleep cycle is that you have 4 cycles. You have the initial one where you're falling asleep and you're getting into bed and kind of drifting off, and then your second one, and I'll go back if you would like to see this more about the cycles. So the light sleep, the deep sleep, the REM, the N1 is when you're first falling asleep. N2 is that light sleep. Then you've got deep sleep and vivid dreaming, which is REM. So I hope that suffices for a bit of an explanation without taking too much more time there. You're welcome. Absolutely. So what is quality sleep? Well, we certainly know we want 7 to 9 hours of quantity, but in terms of quality, that is, you're related to how well you're sleeping, and it can be measured in a variety of ways. So it's defined by these characteristics. If you can fall asleep after getting into bed within 30 minutes or less, if you sleep straight through the night, waking up no more than once or twice. As we get older, it's reasonable to wake up more than once per night. If you're able to sleep the recommended hours for your age group, if you do wake up, are you able to fall back asleep? And are you feeling rested and energized when you wake up? Other things related to sleep quality, this is from the National Sleep Foundation. So sleep latency, these are the 3 elements that really affect your sleep quality. Sleep latency is how long it takes to fall asleep. So you can see there's 3 kind of time stretches here. Up to 30 minutes is considered good sleep quality. And then as you get older, it can take a little longer. 60 minutes or more would be poor sleep quality for any age. I know it's tough. My husband, and I'm looking in the chat, I know oftentimes, especially men, wake up a lot through the night. My husband is 52 and he wakes up probably 3 times every night. So it's normal, and it's something to speak with your doctor about. Awakenings, if there's 1 or less, or 2 for older adults, that is considered good. 4 or more, something to talk to your doctor about. And then sleep efficiency is the total time spent asleep compared to how long you're actually in your bed. So if you're tracking, and my husband uses his Apple Watch, he's got a kind of a nicer new version that has some different sleep tracking elements. But there's a lot of ways that you, without a sleep lab or anything, you can track, if you do have some sort of device that you can wear, or we can talk more about different devices later if you're interested in that. So when you ask yourself these questions, just do a little bit of an assessment. Do you have trouble falling asleep? I see in the chat, someone's talking about having 6 to 8 hours, but interrupted with some visits to the bathroom. So that is pretty common. If you wake up in the night, which many of you do, can you get back to sleep easily? Do you wake up too early? Meaning, if it's like 4 a.m. and you feel like, that's a little too early to be getting up and then unable to go back to sleep. Is there stress? And granted, I know we're all we're all experiencing stress in our life and in our society, but is it preventing you from falling asleep? So maybe employing some other stress management techniques. And then do you have problems staying awake during the day? So those are just questions to ask yourself. So this is a bit repetitive, but just to look at this information in a different way, some other signs that your sleep quality needs improvement. So we talked about, falling asleep and waking up, kind of lying awake. If you're feeling tired during the day and feeling like you are turning to caffeine to stay alert, are there skin issues? Do you notice, in your skin that you're puffy or red or dark circles? If your weight is changing, oftentimes if we don't sleep enough, we are opening ourselves up to a risk of obesity. And then are you feeling an increased amount of stress or emotional exhaustion? And someone asked in the chat about the best smartwatch for tracking sleep. There are so many. I will send a list after this presentation. I know that there's rings you can get. There's an Aura ring, which has a sleep element. There are devices you can put under your pillow that will track your sleep. And then of course there's watches of many sorts, like Apple Watches and many other devices, but I'll follow up with a more extensive list. Of course, sometimes we need a visual to motivate ourselves to get better sleep, just to make a small change, put ourselves to bed a little bit earlier, engage with a healthy routine and stick to it. And we do this because we don't want these effects of sleep deprivation from head to toe, but especially in your head. I mean, the irritability, the memory lapses, impaired judgment, severe yawning. Of course, it affects your immune system and then raises your risk of diabetes and heart disease and other things like obesity. Really, from head to toe, sleep affects every part of you. So there are a lot of sleep disorders, and I want to get through some of this so we can get to the tips, the things that will help your sleep quality. But I also want to just touch on some of these sleep disorders and how they really come to be. So things that are intrinsic, examples would be insomnia, sleep apnea, things that develop within your body. Extrinsic are caused by outside factors, like you're staying up too late, consuming too much caffeine, there's too much noise where you are. Circadian rhythm, very important element of your sleep cycle. It's that why night shift nurses have a tough time sleeping, or why newborns sometimes don't know the difference between day and night. They need to be exposed to the sun. Is that this is when we're awake, and the nighttime. So for jet lag or for night shift workers, that can be really disruptive to the normal sleep cycle. And then other conditions that can affect sleep disorders, medical conditions, psychiatric, heart problems, etc. Sleep monitors that measure brain waves. I'll follow up with that. Yes, there's most of the time it's tracking your breathing in your brain waves. It's tracking all different vitals. Factors that affect the development of insomnia. There's predisposing factors, things that influence your tendency to experience chronic insomnia, and that things that are within your personality, your circadian rhythm, your age, etc., your coping mechanisms. So things that are within our control, some things, especially coping mechanisms. The perpetuating factors, this is really where to focus, because you can change these things. You don't want to perpetuate some of those predisposing factors. So if you're staying up late, but then the conditioning, you keep staying up late and kind of training your body in a negative way. Substance abuse, certainly something we want to avoid, doesn't help anybody. Poor sleep hygiene, and that is the habits that surround your sleep. And then precipitating factors, the elements that can cause you to be unable to get the quality of sleep you need, like a situation like having a new baby, something extremely stressful that's happening in your life, something happy but can be stressful as well, or too much light or noise. So this is just a good way to divide it all out. Other sleep disorders beyond insomnia, sleep apnea. when your breathing rapidly or repeatedly stops and starts during the night. And I want to say it's if you wake up, I think doctors define that by if you wake up 5 times unable to, trying to catch your breath, that is defined, that is apnea versus just waking up a couple times. And that is something that can be, certainly assessed by a doctor. Restless leg syndrome. I don't know if anybody out there has that. My husband seems to have that. When you're kind of overwhelmingly want to move your legs, and there could be other sensations, could be a little prickliness or something uncomfortable, or just an kind of an overwhelming urge to move your legs. And then narcolepsy is that neurological disorder characterized by daytime sleep, when you're uncontrollable, you have an urge to sleep throughout the day. So all things to talk with your doctor about. So getting to the kind of reasonable things that we can control that will reduce your risk of any of these disorders. Self-care strategies during the day, and feel free to let me know in the chat if there are things you're doing that help you. We want to know, we want to share with one another. The sleep hygiene plan it's really just the structure of how you're treating your body. Are you drinking caffeine too late? Are you exercising too late, or eating a big heavy meal before bed? So all of the things that surround your sleep it's your sleep hygiene plan. Our sleep lab, the director is Dr. Stein, and he has always said, establish a strict bedtime and be consistent. So, sure, there are times where you'll stay up later or go to bed earlier, but if you typically are going to bed at, 9:30, 10 and getting up at 6, that is better for your body. It's just a consistent routine. I hope that nobody will be mad at the next one, but one of the things that doctors recommend is to avoid napping, especially if you are having an issue sleeping at night. So I know naps can be wonderful. I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but something that to talk with your doctor about. If you're getting up too early or not able to stay asleep at night, try to not nap. Manage stress in your life. So whether that is talking with your friends, listening to music, deep breathing, exercise, mindfulness and meditation, all of the things that we do to manage stress help us sleep better. Exercise. I know that this is a very vibrant community of older adults, and I attribute my parents, and again, they're in their 80s, their good health to exercise and reading and staying socially connected. So you are doing all of those things. Keep stretching, keep moving your body. Whatever brings you joy, keep that on your calendar. Getting a little bit of natural sunlight, so at least 20 minutes a day, good for vitamin D, good for those circadian rhythms to be reset. So make sure you're getting some fresh air. And then know your medicines, and this is where you would speak with your doctor, making sure that if you're taking a medication that makes you more alert, that you're taking that at the proper time and not mixing things. And then, of course, avoiding coffee or any other sources of caffeine after 2 p.m. And again, everyone's different. You might be drinking coffee at 4 o'clock and be able to fall asleep right away. But if you're having problems sleeping, that's an easy one. It's kind of that low-hanging fruit to really assess and change. All right, so looking at self-care strategies before bedtime. I had a friend stay with me not long ago, and he had a sleep mask, a lavender spray, a white noise machine. He brought all of it with him, and he had a magnesium spray that he used on his feet. So people have elaborate routines, whatever's working for you to help you relax before bed and get in that right frame of mind. Please keep doing that. So trying to relax, whether that's taking a bath or a shower, watching out for heavy snacks, especially like complex carbs or a big protein heavy meal or snack that your body is then having to digest all night. Dimming your lighting, having a nice, cool, uncluttered space that is appropriate for slumber. So turning down that temperature, limiting your liquids, especially alcohol, before bed. And then most importantly, limiting technology. I know that your generation, hopefully you're still reading books and, but the younger generations, I worry that they are too attached to devices. And certainly we want to avoid that blue light before bedtime. You can go on whether it's your iPad or device of any sort, and you can affect the lighting. You can go to the display and change. So say like at 9 o'clock, if you want to start winding down, you can set your phone or your device to have a dimmer light between 9 and say, 7 a.m. So if you're able to do that, that would be one quick tip. And then just removing televisions, any devices, computers, etc., phones away from your bed so that you're really feeling good and relaxed. So once you're in bed, we do want you to reserve your bed for sleep. This may not be an issue for you all. So many people during the pandemic, it was like their bedroom was their office. So, keeping your bedroom clear and uncluttered, avoid doing anything except for sleeping in your bedroom. Prepare that environment, get into a comfortable sleep position. And then if you can't sleep, don't just lie there and ruminate about not sleeping, because that can cause more stress. Sometimes people turn their clocks around so they don't see the time. So if you're waking up, you don't want to know how long you've been awake, turn that clock around. For a while, I had a clock that would have a digital display on my ceiling, but I had to get rid of it because it kind of did stress me out to wake up and see what time it was. If you can't go back to sleep, and I'll send these tips because I know they're not on the slide, but some other things, aside from just, picking up a book, newspaper, not looking at a device. Ideally, you don't want to engage your brain with that blue light, but sometimes you have, maybe it's a cold washcloth or a cold glass of water that will kind of cool your body down. There are tips. There was a New York Times article recently that said reading nutritional labels can be a way to, learn something, but it's not super, stimulating for your brain. You could also, if you want to turn something on, watch something that you've already seen. So if you turn on the TV, reruns of a show you've seen many times, nothing that will really engage you and make you want to stay awake. So ideally, not, yes, someone says in the chat, not charging your phone next to your bed, because sometimes it is nice to have in case of an emergency, but if you can keep it a little farther away so it's less tempting. Someone also asked about weighted blankets, and that is really popular for a lot of kids and really adults, anybody. If there are cooling blankets, so if you are someone who gets hot, like I don't like too much covers, but I do like a nice cooling blanket. So I have a comforter with a duvet that is not something that really raises my temperature, just makes me feel really kind of safe and comfortable, and it is a bit weighted, and it helps me get to sleep. Of course, there are officially weighted blankets out there, so something to play with if you feel like you can't get back to sleep. And then again, just like a cold washcloth could be good for you, or if you're taking care of grandkids. I have a 13-year-old, and if she can't sleep, I pull out all of those things, the cold washcloth, a little cold glass of water, I will find that comforter, and I will send you guys a whole bunch of tips. I see somebody asked about the brand of comforter that doesn't raise temperature. Everyone's different though. So when you're going to bed, if you feel like you're still really churning over the day and there's a lot on your mind, give yourself some time to process what happened. Maybe keep a journal. Here are some prompts. I won't read everything on this slide, but frankly, I really like these questions for the dinner table. So if you're sitting and engaging in conversation with friends or family, or having a virtual talk with some family members, these are good questions to delve into, to really discuss. It helps to get things off your mind before bed, and to also just kind of go to bed feeling some gratitude and feeling some joy. Someone asked suggestions on a mattress. I have the, well, I guess it's called a Thermarest. It's like I don't know the technical name. I say astronaut foam, but it's firm. If my husband is rolling around or if I get into bed later, you don't wake anybody up. And so that is something I like, a little bit more of a firm mattress that doesn't get too hot. So in terms of your position, and your pillows, I don't have all of the information for you specifically, but you know what your body feels like. I know that I have kind of a knee issue where I need to sleep on my side with a small pillow in between my legs. And I'm really careful if I'm going to roll over in bed, I'm really careful to like maybe throw off a heavier cover and then just sort of mindfully turn my body without twisting anything. And I would recommend the same for anybody because it's easy to tweak something if you're moving really quickly. For back pain, there's pillows you can use under the small of your back to maintain that natural curve, or you could sleep on your side. Sleeping on your stomach can really be bad for your back, can strain your neck and back. And there's different types of pillows that are good for side sleepers or things that are more comfortable for you. So assess all those things. We don't have to spend a lot of money on new items, but sometimes we can just move things around, try a different pillow, try a different position. Now, yes, my husband snored a lot. He has lost weight and that helped immensely. And I think that I snore a little bit too. So I'm just admitting that. We all might snore a little bit, but here are some remedies. So if you snore or your partner snores, you can try elevating your head, sleeping on your side, which really helps. The allergy season can be a real tough blow to those who snore because it's creates more snoring, especially those chronic allergies. So treat them and get that medicine in your system. Structural problems in your nose, so that's something to talk with your doctor about. Limiting alcohol or, before bed, because that really puts you in that deeper sleep immediately and might create more snoring. Having a humidifier can help. There are nasal strips. And then just training yourself to breathe through your nose, through your mouth. When you're breathing through your mouth, especially at night, you're more likely to snore. So I don't want anyone to tape anyone's mouth shut, but I did watch a podcast at one point where a person put a tiny piece of medical tape over their mouth and that forced them to breathe through their nose. It didn't eliminate the mouth breathing. It wouldn't have you can easily take it off, but it just really trained the person to breathe through their nose. So as you're engaging in deep breathing at any time during the day, just to reduce stress, try to put one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart, and just breathe deeply in and out through your nose. Someone in the chat says they have an app that is something they paid for called Snore Lab, and that tracks snoring. It's a great way to understand what's going on because, yeah, a lot of people don't know if they snore. My husband didn't know how loud he snored until I took a couple little short videos. But as I said, he lost weight, and that has been one of the best things for his snoring. So another thing that can affect us, especially for those who are traveling, is jet lag. So if you're getting ready for your trip, make sure you're staying really hydrated, not drinking a lot of alcohol. Set your watch to the time zone where you're going, and then eat in a healthy way. Feed your body with good, healthy carbohydrates to sleep. And if you want to stay more alert, protein. Once you get there, getting acclimated with sunlight and not constantly thinking about the time zone where you came from. And then talking to your doctor about how you can also improve that jet lag. So somebody asked in the chat about medications. We have some slides coming about medications, but when it comes to any of the more medical questions, I would certainly send you to talk with your doctor because everyone's different. Everyone's on different medications already, and I don't have the exact answer for you, but we do have some ideas coming. These are things that are ingredients that are most common in sleep aids. So melatonin, I know we naturally create melatonin. And so we don't want to stay on melatonin for too long. It is a temporary fix, if you will, but it can help you, get a little bit more drowsy and fall asleep faster. Valerian root is another ingredient, and that is a natural sleep aid. It can help you relax, reduce anxiety, may reduce the time it takes to fall asleep. And then DPH is another thing that's in allergy medication. So it's sort of a, it's a side effect. So when you take Benadryl or something, anything PM, it has an ingredient in it. Just be careful, as you know, that can make you really drowsy. And we want to make sure that you're not, what does it say on the label? Don't operate heavy machinery. You're not planning to drive or do anything important within that 8-hour window. Another thing is research, and a lot of these things, research is ongoing, but we know that low levels of magnesium can result in sleep issues. So when you have a higher level, that leads to better sleep. There are, again, talking with your doctor, is there a supplement you can add? There's foods that have magnesium, certainly. There are things that people spray either on the bottom of their feet. I've seen that, or, there's all kinds of things that you can add with magnesium that may help. And then some more over-the-counter remedies, things like sleepy time tea or having lavender oil under your pillow or using a spray. I know there's a lot of sleep sprays that you can, mix different essential oils. Something like citrus is more, makes you more alert, but lavender we know is relaxing, and that might help. Foods that have melatonin, tomatoes, cucumbers, cabbage, some of these delicious fruits like apples, bananas, oranges, and cherries. You've got some healthy nuts, almonds, and seeds and walnuts, and then rice, eggs, and fish. So all healthy foods. Those are things that are high in, I'm sorry, did I say magnesium? I meant melatonin if I said magnesium. Is that what your question is in the chat? Did I say the wrong word? I probably did. Apologies. I meant that those foods are high in melatonin. Foods that have a calming effect that are, yes, magnesium is helpful. So I can go back to the slide and show you a little bit more information about how magnesium helps with insomnia. It can lead to better sleep. And moving on to tryptophan, what we often think about tryptophan is turkey. So every Thanksgiving, if you eat too much turkey, you might feel a little sleepy. There are other foods, chicken, fish, low-fat cheese that have tryptophan. It's an amino acid that increases serotonin levels in your system, and that can help you feel relaxed. And when you combine foods that are high in tryptophan with healthy complex carbohydrates, that can also improve your sleep. So complex carbs, something like whole grain bread that will have some fiber as well as those carbohydrates. So we don't want you to eat things that give you that energy boost, like any candy that has, sugar that gives you that boost and then you just drop. We want you to eat a healthy combination of complex carbohydrates, protein, fiber, things that will stick with you and help you have a, solid level of energy. Things that are higher in magnesium, some foods, nuts, again, so nuts are really good for you in moderation, leafy greens, soy products, and fish. So if you're someone who eats fish, being mindful not to eat canned tuna every day, because that can be have a negative effect on you, but mixing it up and making sure that you get a few servings of perhaps salmon each week, that will give you all of the magnesium and other good omega-3s and such that you need. Magnesium also decreases cortisol, which is that hormone that's released when you experience something stressful. And we know that cortisol is initially there to help us deal with that stressful situation. But as we progress and we, aren't dealing with the stress, that response is continuing in our body, leads to inflammation, leads to a risk of disease. So we want to do whatever we can to get rid of that cortisol, and that includes eating foods that are healthy with magnesium. It also includes any of the stress management tools that you're using. So finding that balance and getting your body back to a happy place. And then when you eat those foods that are high in magnesium, it's not only decreasing the cortisol, it's also increasing your melatonin production. So it's all working together. And here's something that I enjoy using if I'm unable to get to sleep, or if my daughter is having a tough time getting to sleep. Just kind of start breathing deeply, speak in a relaxing voice, or in your mind, you're walking yourself through this progressive muscle relaxation where you can either do head to toe or toe to head, where you're tensing and then relaxing. So say for just a few seconds, you're like tensing your toes and really squeezing them together, and then you relax and you feel that kind of sink into your bed. So take it all through your body, and by the time you finish, you should be in a better frame of mind to kind of get to sleep. And another thing that works very often, really for all kinds of issues, is mental imagery. I see someone in the chat puts walnuts and bananas on their cereal. Yes, no wonder you're ready for a nap before your next activity. But bananas are so good. They have the potassium and all kinds of good elements for you. So the mental imagery is cool because you can really cater it to what you want. You can imagine a place you've been that you find relaxing. You could imagine, perhaps it's a sunset, or you're in a field and the sun's going down and the stars are coming out. Or you can imagine yourself in a place that you'd like to go, or a place you've never been, but you can kind of like round out the details in your mind. But you close your eyes, you breathe deeply. It all starts with healthy, deep breaths. And then you just take yourself through each sense. What are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you hearing and touching and feeling? So going through all of the senses. And this is a really good way to ground yourself and to relax. And when your mind starts to drift, that's normal. You just keep focusing on your breath and visualizing. And then, coming back to where you are and hopefully able to sleep. And, if this is something you could also do just to relax yourself before a stressful event, mental imagery, picturing yourself being successful at something. It works for sports. It works for all kinds of situations. So, as we went through all these questions, how you're sleeping, if you're waking up, if you are feeling tired during the day, you're doing a lot. I know a lot of you have put things in the chat that yes, you're waking up in the night, but it seems like a lot of you are taking good care of yourselves. You're curious. You've got apps, you've got healthy food. So you're all on the right track. Keep these questions in your mind, and speak to your doctor. It always helps before you go to the doctor to have a list of questions, a long list. I do that in my phone. I create a notes section of everything I want to talk about, every question I have, because I want to make use of their time, but I really want to maximize the time I have with my doctor. So, if your sleeplessness is becoming chronic, ask yourself, are you continually tired and fatigued? If you're told that your snoring is loud and interrupts your evening, if you notice sleeplessness or sleepiness after taking new medications, and if there's other health problems like back pain or depression or arthritis that are preventing you from sleeping. So there's always something we can change. Okay. Gonna get to the next slide. There we go. More questions you can talk with your doctor about. We want you to keep a journal, if you will, so you really understand the patterns. And if you do that, sometimes you can kind of assess your own the underlying issue. Is it that you're just staying up too late, or having a drink, too many glasses of wine before bed? Is it something you can really put your finger on? How long has your problem lasted? What are your symptoms? What's changing in your life? Is there something that you can control or eliminate? Have you had any recent illnesses or being treated for a health problem? Of course, what medications are you taking? Always keeping an updated list of that. And then what are you doing in terms of self-care to help your sleep problem? Are you going to bed earlier and breathing deeply? Are you exercising? Are you, taking in some of those foods that have healthy elements? So keep all of that together before you speak with your doctor. If you do go to a sleep expert, and VHC has a sleep medicine department, they will conduct a detailed health history. I've actually never been, so I can't speak to exactly what they do, but I know people who have been. My dad just did one at home, so you can also do a sleep study at home where they will give you equipment to measure, over the course of 3 days how you're sleeping, and then make some recommendations. So they'll assess your habits, your cycle, and then they'll give you treatment options, hopefully first with the behavioral changes and then medication if needed. So someone asked about prescriptions. This information is compiled for you, but again, I am not a doctor, so I don't feel comfortable, speaking to who needs what, because everyone's different. But there's a lot of different options. There's things that, help keep you awake, or there's things that help the brain fall asleep more quickly. So you can see lots of information on this slide. I will not read every word. I know you have some other things you have to get to, but things to consider. So, why are you recommending this drug for me? What are the side effects? Will it interact with other things that I'm taking? What time should I take it? Morning, afternoon? Is it a time release? Are there restrictions around it? And is there anything else that I can be doing to help my sleep? So self-care, we've touched on it a lot, but ways that you can decrease the stress in your life. And the fact that you're here and talking about all of these things is a really, really positive element. Not using stimulating substances, taking care of your body, moving your body every chance you get, finding all the things that bring you joy, keeping those on your calendar as your schedule changes, making sure you really prioritize those fun things that make you feel true joy, and taking good care of yourself. So the good sleep hygiene, we talked a lot about those habits that surround sleep. So it's the uncluttered room, the cool temperatures, keeping those relaxing things at the ready, like lavender or magnesium-rich foods, being screened for and treating underlying illnesses, and then of course talking with your doctor. Being armed with that list of questions, what you've kind of learned from keeping a journal of some of the patterns, and then if self-care is not helping, really getting the help you need. Good night's sleep is essential, as we know, for so many reasons. So I hope that you will take one little pearl today and employ that, and let those positive changes snowball. We know, of course, it has many benefits to your health and quality of life. It can significantly affect your health and your safety and your overall well-being, and the well-being of the people around you. And, most sleep problems are temporary, and they can be treated with self-care and a lot of the things we talked about. But I also know that we are so lucky to be in this community, where you're, again, talking with one another, recommending changes, and have such a rich network of health professionals all around us to assist. I know there were some questions that I did not get to. I'm going to turn my camera back on if I can and share a few resources. Let's see. Here I go. A few resources. The VHC Sleep Lab is there, American Sleep Apnea Association. Now the EAP, I should have probably taken off this slide. That's more for if you're still working and you have an employee assistance program. But probably the best thing here is to start with your own physician or a clinic. National Sleep Foundation, Mayo Clinic always has a lot of reputable information, but this is what we use to develop this presentation. And then I sent a whole laundry list of other resources and links, which I can follow up and send you more about the devices, mattresses, and comforters, things that are cooling. But I find that, if you can't sleep, there's also, I don't want you to reach for your phone, but there are a lot of great apps, Calm, Headspace, things that can even just play white noise. I have a white noise machine next to my bed, and I use it every single night. It just kind of, any snoring or any noises, it kind of evens them out and helps me stay asleep. I also know several instructors that teach classes with us, teach Feldenkrais or yoga. They engage with tapping, which is, back up a little bit, where you're just, if you wake up and you can't sleep, you're just calmly breathing and really just nice deep breathing in through your nose, feeling your belly rise, and you're just gently tapping your shoulders. So if this is uncomfortable, you can tap your knees, you can any sort of tapping where you're grounding yourself. And so there's a link in the resources that I provided, not on the screen here, but it's in what you'll receive, that has a short video that explains more about something like tapping. And I think that's it. We might have one more slide with just a disclaimer, which we have in all of our presentations, that this does not substitute talking with your doctor. In fact, it really should motivate you to, if you have any issues that you want to talk about, that you should, make that appointment. So thank you for having me today. And
We have a couple of questions.
okay.
One of them was asking about medications for people with bladder problems that require them to get up 4 or 5 times a night.
Mm-hmm.
Can you address?
Well, I mean, I can't give you an exact recommendation for, there are medications, of course, for that. Like, you probably wouldn't want to be on a water pill. My husband takes a water pill, and that's probably why he gets up so much. But, with so many different medications that people are on, I do not have a specific one to tell you. I'm sorry, but I can follow up. I can ask for some information, and that would definitely be a discussion with your doctor.
Okay, and next question. To get an appointment in the sleep lab, do you need a referral from your physician, or can somebody just call up and say, hey, I'd like to do a sleep study?
That's a good question. I think typically you do need a referral, and I'll call them this afternoon and find out more and follow up with you all. But in when I've last checked, it was that you do need a referral from your doctor. That said, a lot of things have changed with becoming more open and being able to, like, even a colonoscopy, to do a direct referral versus having a doctor script. So I can find out 100%. It may depend on your issue, but I would err on the side of getting a note from your doctor, a script.
Okay, and can you also tell us, is that generally covered by health insurance?
I mean, it would depend on your insurance. If there's a medical issue, they can have a code to attach, that insurance claim. And I think, that is what's needed to get something covered. Then it's talking with that nurse or that tech and saying, please make sure that you, when you're writing this up in the system, that you are attaching, this disorder, whether it's sleep apnea or insomnia, because that is what it will take to get something covered. But always asking, every insurance is different. Any other questions or
I don't
feedback
think
for
so.
the group? Thank you very much. I will, let's see, what time is it here? You may have some, it's almost 11 o'clock. So I feel like this was right on time. I'm happy to keep
Perfect timing.
you on your time. Thank you so much. And we have lots of topics and different people in our department and different experts we can pull in. So please reach out to us again with any needs for your weekly discussions.
Well, Cornelia, I just want to thank you. This was very, very helpful. I'm sure all of us at one time or another has some sleep problem or issue or needs a little advice as to how to make it get through the night sleeping well. So thank you so much. We really appreciate this.
And lastly, just turning off the news, not turning the news on right away. Some easy things we can do to reduce the stress in our lives. And when you wake up, stretching, glass of water, sunlight before you reach for any devices that will have anything stressful, like, or turning on the news. So doing those things to set your body on a good path.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that good advice. And it is now 11 o'clock. So just a reminder that next week our guest will be Jose Quiros, who is the Arlington County Sheriff. And he is going to be talking about scams, alerting you to scams that unfortunately are connected to law enforcement. So I guess the Jose Quiros has been around since, I guess he started the sheriff's department a day before 9/11 attack on the Pentagon. And he's Arlington's first Latino sheriff. So that should be a good presentation of, again, interesting information, especially about scams. So be sure and join us next week at 10 o'clock for another coffee and conversation. And meanwhile, please stay cool, at least for the next 2 days. I think it's supposed to start getting cooler on Friday. So try to stay cool and stay hydrated.